Hey there, it's Megan Andrew, and thanks so much for stopping by my channel. I'm so excited to share with you this cute surprise fold card using the brand new Concord and 9th suite as pie bundle. So I have an A2 folded card here, and you'll notice that I'm holding it so that the fold is on the right. Now in this bundle there are a series of different shapes, not just pie pieces, but also squares and circles. And so I'm using this square, and this is actually the square that cuts out the tablecloth or the napkin. And I'm going to do a selective die cutting with this so that I can make just this little square at an angle fold open. So what I'm doing here is I'm opening my card, because if you keep the card folded, it's going to cut both sides. So open up your card, and I want to make sure that I get the square in exactly the right place, and then I'm going to put my scrapbook.com mint tape there to hold it down right on the edge of that fold. Then I'm going to put my top plate on my Spellbinders Platinum 6 here. I'm going to put my top plate right on the edge of my mint tape because I know that that's at the edge of my card fold. And when I take that off, it folds only to the edge of my card fold. So this is going to be the piece that opens on the card, not the entire A2 card front, but just that one piece. And you'll see what I'm going to do with that in just a second. Now I'm using the new basket weave card front die to add some texture. I really love a white clean card front, but I also like to add texture to it to make it a little bit more interesting. So that's why I'm doing that here, and you can see that I added my mint tape there, but because of the way that this cuts, you want to make sure that you're really careful when you pull away the tape. And I'm using my spatula there just to get a little bit of tape off. So my texture is on the entire front of that card. One of the largest dies in this set is a square with some fringe on the edges, and it's the edge of that tablecloth or napkin, whatever you want to call it, a table runner. I just love it. I love how it adds that little texture of fringe on the edge, and I cut that out using the juniper cardstock. Juniper is one of my favorite colors. It's a beautiful mix between like a dark teal and a dark green. It's just really beautiful. So now I'm taking that tablecloth pattern, that checked pattern, and a white piece of cardstock. I'm going to use 100 pound here, and I'm going to take out my Misty. This is the new Misty from scrapbook.com, and it's rose quartz. It's so beautiful. I love creating with it. It just looks so pretty sitting on my desk. Since this is a new to me stamp, I'm using a gum eraser there to just get some of that oil off of the stamp before I ink that up with juniper, and one press and we're going to be good to go. This is a really juicy stamp pad. I've not had it that long, so it is a one stamp process here. Then I can take out that square that I used for the card front and die cut out that pattern. And when you put the two pieces together, it looks absolutely adorable, like a little vintage fringed checked tablecloth. I love it. So I'm going to add this here to my little flap, and I'm going to just make sure that I get all of my tape off first and get that lined up. So from the inside, you'll see just the edge of that fringe piece there, just like that. And once I line it up, I'm going to want to trim off the edge as well. So you definitely want to use a self-healing mat for this and a nice ruler. Mine has a non-slip underneath at the bottom to make sure that you really hold that in place. You really want to make sure that you get that line right on the edge of your card fold so that it looks really nice and clean. I'm going to do the same thing with the inner part of the tablecloth and do the exact same thing and just trim that off the edge. And with that, my card base is done and I have a cute little surprise fold. So now I'm just going to adhere the rest of the card front together so that only the fold opens up. And I'm really excited about the way that this turned out, and I really think that it shows that you can come up with some out of the box ideas with some basic dies that you have in your stash. Okay, now let's build the scene. What I love about this sweet as pie bundle are just the amount of different parts and pieces that you can use to put together your sweet little pie or pies, however many you decide to put on your card. So I just cut out the pie plate out of Dove cardstock, and now I'm cutting the crust out of wheat, which is kind of like a craft. And I think that this is the perfect, like warmer neutral to cut out the crust. Then I'm going to use the circle and spiced cider cardstock to cut out my pumpkin part of my pie. It's the most perfect pumpkin pie color, if I do say so myself. And then I decided that I wanted to cut out another couple of pie crusts because usually the pie crust is higher than the pie custard, so therefore I thought it should be on my card as well. So I will layer those up, get this out of the way, and I want to make it a little bit more realistic by inking it up, but first I want to adhere the pieces together. So I'm using that Gina K Designs bottle that gives you a really nice fine detail point for your glue. I'm also using spiced cider here to give my pie some definition because usually, it's darker in one area than another. So right now I'm making it the center, but if I really think about it, it's usually the edges that are darker, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to look very, very cute. Then I'm going to grab wheat here, and this is my first time opening this ink, so I'm pretty excited about it. I just recently got the large ink pads from the older Concord 9th colors because I had cubes before. So I'm really excited to have the full-size pads now for all of the Concord 9th colors, which are my favorite. So when you bake something, it gets darker around the edges, it gets that baked golden kind of color, and that's what I want to recreate here on this pie. So I used wheat around the outside edge of the pie custard, and I'm adding the pie crust on top, and then I'll go around it again with wheat just to get that nice little baked color on there. I want to make sure that I get this stuck down really well before I do that though. Remember I said there were so many little add-ons that you can add to your pie? Well, I really love the hearts and the leaves. We often will cut out leaves for our pie crust from our pie crust pieces and put those on the center of our pumpkin pie. So that's something we like to do in our family. And so I thought it would be perfect to use the offcuts of the pie crust that I have lying around to cut a heart and a couple of those leaves. And again, I'm going to layer them so that they stand up a bit from the custard layer. And I'm going to do another leaf on here. And again, I'm using wheat cardstock for these. There's always something that you can do with your leftover die cut pieces, so this is a good example. Then I want to make sure that I put in that pie server, and I'm cutting that with Dove cardstock. I'm going to do this in 2 layers as well. I really like to at least do 2 layers on my die cut pieces to really give them some strength to put on my cards. Okay, so here I go with the wheat, just adding a little bit of that, baked on color onto my crust. And if some of it hits that orange, that's no big deal at all. So I'm just cleaning off my desk. Then I'm going to use my Brutus Monroe stick and stamp mat to hold these little pieces on, and I'm going to give them a little bit of that brown edge as well. Now, if you're me, your edge is a little bit more brown than it should be because sometimes you forget about the pie in the oven. But for these, I'm going to just give them a nice golden brown color. Okay, and then I can place those on my sweet little pie here. That is just the cutest. So now it's time to adhere all of these pieces that I've cut together and bring this sweet little pumpkin pie to life. I would love to know what kind of pie is your favorite. I love a pumpkin pie, but I also love apple pie. So I think I would have a really hard time choosing between the two. But I digress. So my little leaves are going on to the center of my pie using my reverse tweezers from scrapbook.com, and then I'm going to add my heart just to the top. I was just deciding there if I'm going to overlap, which I think I'm going to just slightly. There we go. And then I can put an acrylic block on top of that just to help hold that down while I work on the pie server. This is a really cute little server, and this is the large one. There's one that's even smaller than this. So sweet. And they also have a piece that you can add color to the handle. So we're going to use that too. I'm just seeing here, where I want to kind of arrange things so that if I want to cut anything else, like another leaf, like I'm going to do here, then I have time to do that. I really like to have things in three, and so I thought that it would be nice to add one more leaf on the edge, almost like as though you had cut out too many and you just have one left over that you're probably going to eat before you cut into the pie, because that's what we do with pie crust. So I have my cute little leaf. Again, I'm going to kind of do some inking on that using wheat and my Gina K blending brush here. Just to give it a little bit of color on the edges. And again, always wipe up your ink off of your surface because you will smudge. And then I'm going to layer the two leaves together. And then I have a little bit more embellishment. It really needed something on that side to kind of continue that diagonal line down to the bottom corner. And then I'll put my pie server above. So this is the time that I like to decide what's going to happen with my sentiment. Am I going to leave it off of the front and put it on the inside? I really like the way that sentiment fits right there. But I ultimately decided that that's not where I wanted to put it just because I didn't want to cover up the basket weave texture on the back of my card. After agonizing a bit over the color choice for my pie server, I decided to go with honeycomb. And I really love the way that this looks with the juniper and the spice cider on the card front. And I think this was a really good decision. So I'm just putting one layer of that handle there. And then to make it look a bit more realistic, I'm going to glue down the bottom of the pie server and use some foam adhesive here to pop up that handle, because usually that handle sits a bit higher up. And so I put that on my card front. Now it's time for me to stamp my sentiment, and it's "I love you more than pie." So that's saying a lot. Now I don't know if I want to use juniper. I think I'm going to go with spice cider because I want something a little bit warmer, and it's the color of pie, so it just makes a little bit of sense. I'm just going to trim out what I stamped here. I stamped two sentiments just in case. The first one I wasn't that happy with, so I decided that I would probably go with the second one. And I'm going to get an idea of where I want this to go on my card front. So my initial idea was to put it down here in the bottom right hand corner, but I really don't like the way that that breaks up the texture on the background. So I thought maybe I could put it on the inside of my card, but I don't like it there either. I really want it on the front. So ultimately, I decided to put it up a little bit higher and layer it on top of my pie. And I really think that this was the best way to do it. Because my pie crust is a little bit higher, I put some foam adhesive right there on the edge of my pie to pop up my sentiment there. Put some glue on the edge of the pie crust, and then a tiny little piece of foam adhesive on the inside of the pie to make sure that there was no sagging of my sentiment. Because we definitely do not want a saggy sentiment. So I'm really happy with the placement of this now. I think that it looks very cute sitting there. I just love this card. I love the way it opens. I love the sweet little sentiment. I love the pumpkin pie. I hope you guys loved watching me put together this card as much as I loved creating it using the Concord 9th Sweet as Pie bundle. Be sure to shop all of the supplies that I used to create this card at the video description box below. And I hope you'll subscribe to see more Concord and 9th October release videos. Thanks so much for watching and happy creating!